If you've been wanting to knit a cardigan but are overwhelmed by all the patterns out there, or just looking for your next favourite cast on, this video is for you. So today we are diving into a very special cardigan pattern guide built entirely by your comments and your recommendations. I asked our wonderful community, both on here and on my Instagram and on our flock, to come up with their favourite cardigan patterns, and as always, you outdid yourself, and there were so many that I had to choose from. It was overwhelming. So I should say I popped them into an online Ravelry group just for you to be able to see. So whether you're looking for your first cardigan project, or you're looking for a specific style of cardigan with a V-neck, or looking at something that suits your skill level, I have pulled together an ultimate guide based on your recommendations and a few that I've included as well that are there for me. So if you love an encouraging sort of inspirational knitting chat about patterns and finding some hidden gems of designers that you've never seen before, you're in the right place. So let's get started looking at some of those pattern recommendations. Let's think about why cardigans. Why would we knit cardigans? I think they're a great transitional piece for us through winter and into summer. In summer, we pull them on when it's a cooler evening and we can just add a thin layer for a bit of warmth. In winter, we can add lots of layers, and cardigan adds that real bulk. It also, they're not quite as exacting as a sweater around fitting. So if your gauge is slightly off, it doesn't matter quite so much. I love that you can add your own personality and style to a cardigan, whether it be buttonholes or the construction as well. And quite often they're done in manageable sections, and if you don't like knitting in the round, they can be knitted flat too, albeit without seams. But it gives you a huge variety that maybe a sweater might do. So it might be a great option if sweater knitting is new to you. Maybe try a cardigan first. But I think the final thing that I'm going to mention is that if you are a female who has been menopausal or suffers from hot flushes, night sweats, all those sorts of things, actually cardigan is a great thing to get on and off quickly without ruining your hair or your makeup. Let's face it, you don't have to lift it over your head. So why not knit a cardigan is what I'm going to say. So I'm going to run through the options on this guide, talking you through from beginner friendly options that people who are new to cardigan knitting or new to knitting might want to do, or those of us that want just a really sort of simple cardigan pattern that we can do and just whip out sort of as quickly as possible, through to sort of intermediate and more advanced. I'm exploring V-necks. I've got some crochet options in there too, through to some really interesting constructions and colour work as well. So whatever your skill level, whatever you want to do, hopefully some of these pattern suggestions will provide some inspiration for you to have a go and not feel overwhelmed by all the patterns that are out there. I have popped as many of your suggestions as I can in a bigger Ravelry file, which I'll put the link down below in the description for, so that you can go and browse a lot of those suggestions. As you can see, there's over 100 in that file, so I couldn't put them all in this video. So I've tried to pick some that give you a bit of variety and a bit of choice, but also some that you may not be as familiar with. So not always the usual favourites, but some of those hidden gems that we might struggle to find on Ravelry or through a Google search as well. So without further ado, let's get going. So I have had to do a spreadsheet because it's me, and just to try and capture everything about the cardigan. So we're going to start with the beginner friendly ones. And many of you suggested the step-by-step cardigan by Florence Miller, similar to the sweater. It's a very beginner friendly pattern with a video, taking you through every step of how you knit it, the construction, all the design elements. It's a V-neck with raglan sleeves. It's top down and knitted in Aran. Very plain, very simple, but very achievable too. And as I said, if you are a bit nervous about casting on for your first one, because Florence records these brilliant videos alongside them, it's a really great first option for you. Another person who featured in the beginner sweater, intro to beginner sweater video, if you haven't seen it, I'll try and put a link in here, was the Mellow Mood cardigan by Julia Pirro. And the Mellow Mood sweater, again, was a great option for those people that have never knitted sweaters before, because Julia provides so much video support. It's V-neck, and it is for a slightly more adventurous beginner, because you begin with the neckband worked in 2 parts towards each shoulder, and then pick up stitches along the edge to shape the yoke. It is raglaned, and the raglan goes all the way down the side of the from the neck down to the bottom of the armhole, and then down the side of the body of the cardigan, which I think is quite a nice design feature. And the button band is what we call a grown-on one. So if you're not used to knitting cardigans, that means you knit the button band at the same time as you knit the bulk of the sweater or the cardigan. It means you don't have to pick up stitches, which can add a level of complexity if you're not used to it. It's a unisex design, so can be knit for men and women, which I think is a really nice feature. Again, it's an Aran weight, so knits up nice and quickly, and yeah, a really good option if you want to give cardigans a go and it's not your first one. The next one is called, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Mile, M-A-I-L-L-E, by Bristol Ivy. Again, really aimed at a confident beginner. It's airy and light with no buttonholes, which is a bonus. If you haven't knitted buttonholes before, there's nothing scary about them. But if you just want something that's going to give you confidence without having to worry about them, it's a really good option. It's a bottom up, so obviously you knit them flat when you divide for the arms, and then you continue with the back, and then you knit the fronts, and you join at the shoulder with a 3-needle sort of join, which you seam then together at the back, and you pick up the sleeve stitches to finish. So as I said, no buttonholes, simple design. It is a lighter, sort of probably more summery type cardigan that you would slip on, or a really good layering option. And it is done in a light fingering weight, so a finer yarn. So will take longer to knit than the Aran alternatives. Next one, which I think is a really simple one to knit, is the Conchetta cardigan by Elizabeth Smith. This is a basic raglan with just a 1 button closure at the front. The sleeves do have a slight bell shape, but you can taper those if you don't like that sort of shape. Obviously no buttonholes again. It's top down. It's knitted in a worsted weight yarn, so quite quick to knit up. Great for throwing on just quickly, winter or summer, and a really good option, really simple to do. The favourite one is also in this category, the one that got mentioned by far the most, and actually it's the one that I recommend to people who want to knit either a simple or want to start knitting cardigans when I'm in the shop, and that is the Felix cardigan. Is by Amy Christophers. Should have remembered that, and it is an sort of Aran weight cardigan. It can be quite cropped, but obviously you can make it longer. It has a raglan neckline, and it's got a sweet little bit of lace detailing, which I like on the raglan. It was by far the most popular choice from people. She does do a sweater version as well, and again, that's a great option for people that want to learn to knit a sweater. It is done top down. You shape the armholes with the raglans, leave the arms on spare yarn or spare needles, work the body, and then come back. It does have buttonholes, so it has got buttonholes, but it's a hugely popular cardigan for a reason. It's a really nice design. So if you are a beginner or somebody that really wants to have a sort of simple knit for a cardigan, I think these are some great options, and thank you for suggesting them. Next up, we've got the sort of confident beginner through to intermediate level cardigan options. And I've tried to bring a mix to these two. So first, I'm going to suggest the Rebel cardigan by Anchor Strict. It is an edge-to-edge cardigan with no buttonholes. It has a small collar at the back, which is quite nice, and that's where you start. You pick up stitches, then increase at the back, picking up stitches for the front, and then work down to the armholes and work flat across the body then before picking up the sleeves. It is a fairly simple one still, but it does have a couple of design elements because of the collar neckline that you may need to be a little bit more confident with your knitting to actually understand. It's knitted from the top down, as I said, but it's a great option, great for throwing on over a dress, over jeans, whatever. So I think that's a really good one. Another one that was very popular, and this designer has loads of cardigan options, and there is another one of hers a bit later on. I think there's a couple of hers actually, but that's because she designs an awful lot of cardigans, and many of you loved knitting them. So I've tried to pick cardigans that come within different ranges from this same designer, and this one is the Even Dune by Kate Davis Designs. So it has raglans again at front and back, and it's the front and back are worked separately with ribbing for the front bands, and when you pick it all up to work, you pick it up and it has I-cord buttonholes. It's a really simple cropped cardigan done in sport weight, and I think it's one of her simplest cardigans that she does. A lot of her cardigans have something called steeking, which I'll explain a little bit more later. This one doesn't. It's super quick to knit, and it's a great, simple, basic cardigan, but it does have a few design elements that you might need to be a bit more confident to knit. Another one that I really liked, a lot of you suggested, was the DRK Everyday cardigan by Andrea Mowry. This is a more jacket style cardigan. It does have, again, raglans. Raglans are nice shaping for cardigans, which the seams again run all the way down the garment. And it begins at a folded collar, which is, it's sort of almost like a shawl collar coming round. And you can choose whether you want the purl side up or the knit side. And she does give those options on the pattern. The button band is a double knit stitch design or construction. So if you've not done that before, this is a good way to maybe pick that up. It is, as the name suggests, one of her everyday patterns. She's got a whole series of these across all sorts of different garments. As I said, done in a sport weight. It's a really nice sort of outer jacket looking cardigan, which was super popular. Another one that came up, and one that I've been looking at as well, is something called the Shallot cardigan by Sophia Izaguirre, and I might have spelled that wrong, but I will pop it in the sort of description below. So this is knitted from the bottom up, but the sleeves are actually worked separately, which is unusual. What I liked about this cardigan is there's a lovely lace detail on the back, which gives it a really nice design feature. I suppose you could knit it without that if you don't like lace, but it is there, and I think it's a really nice option. You join from the bottom up, and then once you get to where the armholes are, you join the sleeves, the bottom and the front, the backs and the fronts, and then you knit the yoke together. So you bring it all together by knitting the yoke. And then you have two options for the neckline. You've got a plain crew neck, or you've got this nice bow detail. So if you wanted to make it more of a feature and put the bow in, I think it was a really nice sort of garment that you can actually wear as a standalone garment, particularly if you did it in a really nice yarn. It is sport weight, and I think it's a really good sort of piece that looks quite plain at the front, but I love the lace detail on the back, so I thought that was a really good choice. The last one I have opted for from your picks in this sort of category was the Farron Doll by Tricot Design. It's a really nice, elegant cardigan. It has a lovely sort of crochet scalloped detail down the sides. It's done in DK, knitted from the top down. If you can't crochet, you don't have to put those in, but I think it's quite a classic cardigan. It's got contiguous set-in sleeves, and you do knit the button band at the same time, so that's an advantage. You don't have to pick it up and do it afterwards. But I think from a style perspective, it's quite a fitted cardigan, but I think it's a really nice design with a round neck, and a great option for somebody that's looking for something a little bit different. I've pulled out some additional V-neck options just because I know V-neck cardigans are very popular, and you will see some V-necks scattered through some of the other suggestions too. But a beginner-friendly one, V-neck, is the Harlow cardigan by Cardigan. It's an easy make. It's oversized with drop shoulders, worked flat, obviously, with a neat back shoulder detail, so that the back shoulder is quite nice. It's got a 2x2 rib for the button band, and it does have some video support with it too. So it's a really nice sort of basic V-neck. I know the step-by-step is a V-neck too, but I think it's a nice alternative if you want to make something quite simple in a V-neck. The next one I've got is the Bertana cardigan by Irina Anikieva. This has some lace detail, so it's a relaxed V-neck with a sort of geometric lace panel on either side, down the front and on the back. It's a nice light one. I think it's really nice for summer wear. It's knit in sport weight. Don't know whether I mentioned the Harlow cardigan is worsted weight, but the Bertana is knit in sport weight. I think it's really nice for throwing on a cool summer evening or spring morning. Great over a dress. It has a ribbed button band, as I said, so you do have to knit the button band, but I thought it was a nice pattern. I think it would knit up quite easily. The lace pattern looks quite simple, so not too difficult. I think a confident beginner or somebody of an intermediate knitter could easily make this. So yeah, thank you for suggesting it. Hugely popular was the one that I've got hit on here, which is the Garden Cardigan by Anchor Strict. So another one by Anchor Strict, another person that knits, designs loads of cardigan patterns. This has built-in button bands, and you work the back until you get to the armholes, and then you come back and you pick up this neckline detail, which is quite different because you knit a crisscross neckline. I'm going to turn around so you can see the neckline on this. Hopefully you can see that. So then you knit down to the fronts, join under the armhole, and it's got this very simple all over lace detail. It's knit in double knit, DK weight. The design at the neck is designed so that it doesn't slip, keep sliding off your shoulders. If you've got quite slopey shoulders like me, that is a bonus. I find it fits really nicely. And you can put an optional inner patch pocket. I haven't got that on this one, but I do think it's a nice design feature, because who doesn't love a cardigan with a pocket? So it was a very popular choice amongst the people that commented, and again, it's a popular choice for a reason. A much more complex one is the Priscilla by Marzena Kalacek. This pattern is an intricate sort of lace pattern which has bobbles, it has cables, it has lace work, it has a scalloped edging to it, which makes it a really pretty cardigan. I think you could actually wear this as an evening cardigan if you knitted it up, or you could wear it to a wedding over a dress. It's a really beautiful cardigan. It's really interesting, I think, to knit. If you like something that is a bit of a challenge and will keep you really focused, this is a pattern that will do that. It's a double knit pattern. You work the fronts and then the back before joining, and you do use some German short rows for shaping. And with the placket, the wavy placket, the pattern, each of the plackets are different for different sizes so that you get a really nice fit. She does make the back of the cardigan slightly wider than the front, just for fit purposes, because she prefers that. I think if you are bigger busted, I'm not sure how that would work if you were a much fuller bust at the front, but you could probably knit a size bigger than you normally would to accommodate for that. But a lovely pattern, but one for the really confident sort of knitter who's quite advanced and really likes using all of those techniques. I popped in a couple of crochet options too. The first one is the Ariana by Amy Christophers. Amy designs both knitting and crochet. The Ariana is basically large granny squares constructed on the side, so it's worked sideways, and you know, who doesn't love a granny square if you can crochet? But you do finish it with knitted cuffs and a knitted button band and sort of edging to it. I think you could crochet that if you are used to sort of doing that crochet rib. I think you could use crochet rib if you don't want to knit, if you are just a crocheter. But it's a way of using up lots of scraps of yarn too. It's worsted weight, a super popular pattern, and really sort of on trend with the crochet sort of patterns and things that are everywhere in retail shops at the moment. A slightly more complicated one is the Boxy Blooms cardigan by Rachel Misner. This is a cropped boxy sort of layering piece, which is a deep V-neck with three buttons and a mix of crochet stitches for sort of this sort of lacy, lightweight texture. But it does have a full video tutorial. So if you are a crocheter and you wanted to try something that was a little bit more challenging for you, this would have the video support to help you to actually make this cardigan and complete it. So yeah, DK weight Boxy Blooms cardigan by Rachel Misner is my other crochet option. Now, Colourwork gives you so many options, doesn't it? And there are so many that are sort of beautiful, stunning cardigans, which take an awful lot of work. So I've tried to, from your suggestions, I've tried to pick sort of different types of colourwork. So it sort of gives you this sort of flavour of some of the things that are out there. So the first one is the Ship Shape cardigan by Heidi Kermere. It's a striped cardigan, and it's done in DK. You begin with the shoulder gussets, which are a really nice construction, and then you pick up the stitches on the edges of those shoulder gussets to work down. So you work down then to the armholes. You finish the edging with a slip stitch edge and the buttonhole, so it's a grown on sort of button band as well. And then you knit the collar at the end when you pick up the stitches and knit the collar at the end. I've seen this knitted up by quite a few people. It's really nice design. It fits really nicely. I think the shoulder construction is really good, and it's a really popular choice, and I think it's a really nice cardigan if you want to try colour work but don't want to dive into something like stranded colour work or intarsia or something more complex. The Nordic Bloom by Caitlin Hunter was a very popular choice amongst you. Many of you have knitted it. I mean, it says it's bulky weight, but it's 12 ply. So to me, that's sort of a thick Aran. I think you could knit this in. I don't think you necessarily have to have it super bulky. There are vest and cardigan options. The Bloom series was very popular by Caitlin. I think it's a great layering piece with some stranded colour work with that sort of Nordic sort of flower design on it. So really sort of nice, but not too difficult. It's slightly cropped with a ribbed button band, and I think it would be a super quick knit. You knit it from the bottom up, and as I said, very popular amongst you guys. Slightly more traditional in looking like a Fair Isle, and this is the second one here from Kate Davis Designs, which is the Tonic. It's got quite a vintage feel with drop shoulders, and it uses, as I said, stranded colourworks, but it does have a slight lace design which creates the waves, which I think tonic stands for in Gaelic. It's quite a boxy shape, as a lot of her cardigans are, and it's done in fingering, so it's quite a fine sort of cardigan, great for layering. I think the colours she's done it in are stunning, so that makes it stand out. But if you want to try a stranded colourwork design, I think she is one of the better designers at designing sort of stranded colourwork. Now, quite a complex one, only because Nikki, who works with us for the shop and does some of our knitting for us, knitted it for us, is the Nashatan by Woolmushy Designs. It's a throw-over cardigan. It's stunning. When you see it made up, it's stunning, and it totally makes it worth the effort of putting it together. It is a throw-over, sort of almost like a waterfall front to it, with some colourwork in the bottom half. The sleeves are quite slim to keep the fit nice, so that the sort of waterfall nature of it doesn't mean it keeps slipping off the shoulders. So it's great over bare arms and over t-shirts, I would say, or sort of vest tops. You sort of start at the centre of the upper body with a provisional cast on, and then you work sideways and work the sleeves, and then you pick up and work the upper body, and then you work the lower, pick up and knit the lower body with all the colour work on it. So it's quite an interesting construction. It is a fingering weight pattern. You know, because you're knitting flat, as with all of these, when you knit colourwork, you're going to have to do purled stranded colourwork. So just be aware of that, because you're not knitting in the round. You are going to have to do some purl stranded colourwork. But it is a beautiful, beautiful piece when it's knitted, and it will, when we had the sample in the shop, I could have sold that cardigan so many times. It was such a popular design, but well worth knitting, but challenging. Another type of cardigan that uses another type of technique is the Intarsia Reset Cardi by La Maison Rilili. It is a very structured cardigan, and the Intarsia actually creates the tailoring that you need as part of it. So it's got clean lines and it's sort of an elegant fit. So tailoring is really behind the design elements of this. There is a crop version and a top too of this, but the pattern does include a full 3-hour mini course on Intarsia knitting, which I think is really great value. And that includes written instructions and video support too. It has pockets, it has a slim button band, and it has I-cord edges. So the Intarsia really is placed to sort of highlight the different sections. There are 2 sleeve variations on the pattern. It is knitted in light fingering, so it is quite a long knit in terms of, because you're knitting it on quite fine needles. But again, if you are interested in construction and different techniques, and particularly tailoring, this would be a great option for you. The next one is the final one by Kate Davis Designs, and I'm going to pronounce this completely wrong. Tuorash, which I will spell below, which means cheerio in Gaelic, which is easier for me to say. Again, I have seen this in the flesh, because Fran, one of the people that helps me with the dyeing and also is a great friend to the shop, has made this, and it is one of my favourites. Whenever I see her in it, it is stunning. It is an all-over colourwork charted pattern. It does have steeking. So steeking is where, instead of sort of knitting flat, you knit a steek bridge, as they call it, which is so if we were thinking of a cardigan here, it's a central piece here that's knitted quite plainly, and it's knitted with the purpose that you're going to be cutting up through it and reinforcing the sides so that your knitting doesn't fray. I'm going to pop a video of me actually steeking this cardigan. I'm going to show you it here. This is another Kate Davis. A lot of hers are steeked. So if we look here, I'm going to pop the video in a minute of how I cut it. But it's reinforced. I reinforced mine with crochet and I zigzag sewed it as well. And it was my first ever go at steeking that one, and I was scared witless doing it. But as you can see, if you do the preparation correctly and steel yourself to actually cut your first bit of knitting after spending hours making it, it does work out. So I'm just going to pop that in here and then I'll come back and explain a little bit more about this pattern. So not only in this pattern do you steek in the front, you also steek the armholes. So you want to be knitting the whole body of the sweater first, or the cardigan first, and then you go back and cut into those steeks too. So the armholes you'll be steeking up this way. When you do the steek, you cut those open and then you pick up stitches on the fold around around that to actually complete the armholes. And the front of it, again, you'd pick up the stitches to create the button band and use these I-cord buttonholes, which she uses a lot. She's very fond of them. It's on the Hern sweater as well, or Hern cardigan. And I have to say, it's a really neat, I think it's a really neat finish. This is a complex knit. There's no getting away from it. It's all over Colourwork. It's 3 steeks. It's picking up stitches. But again, if you like a challenge or a long-term project, or you love Colourwork, I have to say it's the most stunning cardigan. It can be worn as a jacket. It's done in fingering, but it's a really dense fabric, so it can be worn as an outside jacket, and it would be a real statement piece as well. So those are my options for Colourwork. The final couple that I chose were more about construction. I know a few of these have had interesting construction, but there was a couple that sort of stood out as being quite different. One for me, which quite a few of you mentioned, was the Geiger by Nora Gunn. Again, I'm going to put it, pronunciation is awful today. And it's, if you like cables, this is going to be your cardigan. It's a very tailored fit. I think it's a really smart sort of jacket looking. It has medallion cables down the front, which sort of transition and sort of go through to a sort of more sort of smaller cable, which adds the shape and design to the cardigan. It's got a stunning back to it. It has the button bands, a twisted rib, and it has a picot bind off, so it's got loads of design elements to it. It's a DK. I think you'd have to use the DK that really showcased all of that sort of texture and structure that you've knitted. So pick something that would really showcase that. It's obviously an advanced knit, but how stunning when you knitted it. It's so fitted around the waist and sort of flares out a little bit over the hips. I think it's an amazing, amazing piece. My final one is the Letho by Natasha Hornby. So this one, as you can see, is worked, it's a sideways knit. It incorporates braiding, it incorporates colour work, it's got coloured welts, it's got brioche, it's got everything basically. And again, if you like a challenging knit and you want something that's a real statement piece, I think this one is worth a look at. It's worked in worsted weight, so you work it in 2 halves. So you start from the brioche sleeve cuffs to the centre back, and then you use sort of this invisible, sorry, not invisible, you double-sided provisional cast on, which is invisible for the side seams. There are tutorials included, so if you do want to give it a go, there's some video support. Once you've constructed the 2 sides, you join them with a 3 needle bind off, but with the bind off on the outside, so you make a feature of it. Then the ribbing is done for the body, and you finish off with the colour work and the welts and brioche collar to finish off. So that's the final bit that you finish off with. So a really sort of complex knit with lots of design elements, a bit like the previous one, for the adventurous advanced knitter, but one I think that would keep you really interested and you would learn an awful lot from. I hope you've enjoyed that run through of cardigans that you've recommended by real knitters, people that have knitted some of these time and time again. And I hope I've given you options, whether you are starting on your cardigan knitting journey or whether you want something much more complex and challenging. I really enjoy doing these videos, and I think the next one we will do is around your shawl recommendations, whether that be a triangular shawl, a crescent shaped shawl, elongated shawl. I want to hear what your favourite shawl pattern recommendations are, why you love them too. Hit me with why, how often you've knitted them, what you've knitted them with. It's lovely taking your suggestions and bringing them to a wider audience, because there were many patterns in there that I'd never heard of for the cardigans, and it's helped to build my Ravelry favourites library even bigger than it already was. I hope you've enjoyed this session today. Do make sure that you like and subscribe, and if you get a moment, could you hype this video so more people can see it? Thank you for watching me, and see you again soon.